yourselves officially enrolled in Rock and Roll Grad School with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling. The facilities are yours.
What was I going to say?
BrownMark is a legend.
He is. Hello, kiddies. We're going to have a good time together. Today we have it's an episode from Why, that other show. Feel free to chime in here.
I'm letting you finish your sentence.
Right.
Our firstborn, what do you want me to say?
Exactly. And we talked to BrownMark when his memoir came out last fall.
Yes.
My Life in the Purple Kingdom. And it is a delight.
So good.
And we thought we would share this with you here, but we'll do it as a kind of bonus episode. So if you are a regular Y listener, we are sorry, but we have more. There's more to give, basically.
Right. And if you're a regular Y listener, you've probably already heard, and it's okay if you skip on to the next one in the arsenal.
Right.
Although I've re-listened to this episode because it's good. BrownMark's super cool.
Yeah, and if you listened to it and thought, oh, I should pick up this book and didn't, here's another chance. Here's a friendly reminder to get it.
Yes.
So.
And for those of you who don't know who BrownMark is, which some music fans may, some Prince fans may, BrownMark is the BrownMark from Prince and the Revolution.
Right. Which is just, I mean, he played with Prince before the Revolution were formed. He was, I believe, the first member. I think we get into that. What
we do.
member he was in joining the backing band.
But
so we'll let Mark answer that. Yeah.
We'll let Mark, give the correct info.
Right.
But it's a great interview. Mm-hmm. The stories he has, they're so good.
So far for me, of all the people we've spoken to, either for this show or for Why, the two people that some of the people we've spoken to are sort of tangentially connected to or have worked with, who have yet to burst that bubble or halo of what you think about them as people, have been Prince and David Bowie.
Yes.
And everybody we've spoken to who has worked with them or played with them completely confirms everything you hope they would say about either person.
100%.
And Mark has a great story about Prince doing some incredibly Prince things.
Yes.
That completely just, you're like, of course he does, which is wonderful. So enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we should use a picture of your puzzle to go with it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, so I went to the doctor. Guess what he told
you? Mm-hmm.
He said, girl, you'd better have fun no matter what you do.
Wow. Well, he's a fool.
Oh, I know. Your first show with Prince was really that Rolling Stones opening gig?
That was it. Well, there was a practice gig that we did at the First Avenue right before that show, before we flew out. But my first official show was definitely Rolling Stones.
I can't even imagine. I mean, obviously you tell the story and you tell it so well. I could feel all of the emotions, but what was that like for those listeners who haven't read the book yet, experiencing that crazy, crazy night?
I mean, it was, that you can't explain it with a better word than crazy. It was crazy. And for me, I played, we called it the Chitlin circuit. I mean, I never played in front of, my average crowd was 75 people, maybe 100, a small little hole in a wall, South or North Minneapolis. And, we didn't have opportunities to play in front of large crowds unless we played the Phyllis Wheatley Festival. And that was usually on in the grass and, so it was a different atmosphere. So that was really my first time being in a space, auditorium or arena, 90, I believe it was 94,000, 96,000 people, something like that. They just look like cattle to me. Just cattle. you know, because everybody had their shirts off, women and men. They're
Sounds about right.
swinging in the air, you know, and screaming and hollering, and you know they got fire hoses and they're spraying the people down like cattle. I'd never seen anything like it. And then when the food fight started,
Oh, jeez.
I mean, imagine 90,000 people throwing food. It looked like clouds, rain from food. Yeah, so it was an experience.
And
Yeah.
you were the new guy in the band. Was some of the other Revolution already part of the road crew and the band at that point?
Um, well, first I want to make a really just a slight correction.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
the revolution did not exist yet. You know, and I know a lot of people believe that. A lot of people think I never joined the revolution. The revolution came about in 1983. Prince pulled me aside. He said, "I'm thinking about calling the band." He had like three different names, and the revolution was one of them. And I said to him, I said, "Revolution sounds really cool because that's kind of what we are. We're a music revolution. This is so different. We're like, you know, we're treading new territory." And so he chose that name based on that, and he had always used it in some of his music, but it was never the name of the group. So I joined Prince, you know, the Prince band, and when I joined when I joined the Prince band, um, Lisa, Matt, Bobby, was it Lisa, Matt, Bobby? I'm missing somebody, and Fink. No, I said Matt. I said Lisa,
Mhm.
Fink,
Mhm.
Des, and Bobby.
Mm, right.
And so they were the band, and so I was the newcomer to the band. But they have experienced the large crowds already, you know, because Prince had just got back off a European tour, and you know the theaters and things they played, they were pretty large crowds.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What was he like as a band leader? You talk a little bit in the book about how difficult he'd be or demanding he could be.
He cracked the whip. He was hardcore. He used to call me a hardcore band leader. No, he was hardcore, and but it was good. And, you know, don't get me wrong, he was hardcore in a good way. Um, I think he could have used better tactics sometimes. With
I think so.
Yeah.
you know,
Uh-huh.
he did it the way he knew how to do it, and you know, what I believe in my own mind that he believed that he had to break you from your habits, whatever habits you're bringing into his territory, into his camp. He's the general, he's the leader, he is in control, and he will break you from whatever habits you have and teach you his habits. And so that sometimes requires being very, very strict. And so you had the option. If you didn't want to do it, you could leave. You know, he didn't twist anyone's arm to stay in his band, you know.
You certainly, in the book, credit him for helping you improve your playing
Absolutely.
and your style of playing as well.
Absolutely. He had a work ethic that's impeccable. You know, I was studying about James Brown and some of the other greats from the past. And I was like, wow, okay, you can add Prince right to the ranks because this guy had a work ethic that I had never seen before. And I've been with him through thick and thin. I remember being at his house 3, 4 in the morning. He walking around, looked like he just got off stage. I mean, you know, one time I made a joke and I said, "Dude, do you sleep in those clothes?" Because you know he was on all the time, makeup, you know. I mean everything all day long, and I was just like, "Where does this dude? I mean, where does this come from?" You know.
Was there ever a moment when he wasn't on that you caught him just hanging out in some baggy sweatpants ever?
Even when he was in baggy sweatpants or shorts that came all the way up, you know, like, you know, I call them booty shorts, you know, but I mean, he was always on. It didn't matter. He lived and breathed what he become. He was a super rock star. Nobody could take that away from him. He lived it. He breathed it every moment of the day, even the way he would eat. I could write a book on the way Prince eats. He was just very, he was on. I mean, he would sit there and he'd order half the menu, and then he would sit there and and he would just pick at the food and then say, "You can take it away." It was amazing. It was just like, wait a minute, dude, can I have that?
Like, wait.
My gluttonous behind, I'd eat all his leftovers. But yeah, he was on all the time. It's amazing.
So did you ever see behind that mask?
Never. I
Wow.
didn't know him in any other way. See, that's how
Wow.
I knew him. If the only person that probably knows him in a different place, I would say, is Andre Simone. Because from high school they lived together in the same house.
Mhm.
I think Andre would be the one that has the insight on who Prince was outside of the stardom. But I really do believe he was probably like that even back then. I met him at the Pancake House, and I mean, dude was on. I was 15 years old, and I'm cooking pancakes. I was 14 or 15. I was 15, and he walks in the Pancake House, and big old afro, and he's like, he's punk rocked out, and I'm like, who is this? And I'm jumping around over the countertop trying to see who this dude is, and so every I've never seen him off. I've been roller skating with him at Calhoun, uh, played basketball with him in heels.
It's true.
Played basketball with dude in heels, you know. So I mean, he's just on all the time. It's who he was.
That's incredible. Anything, I mean, I've always, obviously, the music you all created was a revolution. It changed the history
Yeah.
of music, and first and foremost, what is it like looking back to know you were a major part of that? Your talents played a major role in that.
I mean, it blows me away sometimes. It took me years. It took all my friends to keep telling me, it's like, Mark, do you know what you were a part of? And it just doesn't register with me because the way my mother raised me, I mean, I've always been like real humble, and I never take anything for granted. And so I never looked. I looked at him that way. I was like, yo, he's the rock star, but I never looked at myself that way. When my friends would always be like, man, you crazy. You're crazy, dude. You can't even walk down the street, without getting noticed. He says, you don't see that? I said, yeah, but it's because of him. It's not because of me. And so I just had a different way of looking at
Yeah.
it. But yeah, dude was, yeah, he was a rock star through and through, man.
How did he present new songs to the band? Would he just come in and say, "Here, this is, let's start playing"? Or I knew, you talk in the book about jamming for a while and
Yeah.
using that as sort of a basis for some stuff to go off of. Was that his normal MO for writing?
It, no, his normal mo was he would write. Prince was Prince, so he was a one man band, played all the instruments, and so that's how it was. When I came in the group, he had a different agenda. He was trying to form this Sly and the Family Stone, this Fleetwood Mac type of atmosphere where he got, it was a collaboration of all this different background to form this great new revolution of music, funk, rock, folk, soul, and all the way to this real pop rock. So he knew what he was doing when he was piecing this group together. I think he knew Dez. Dez was conflicted at the time. You could tell Dez was conflicted about what he wanted to do, for his own reasons that I'm not going to speak for him.
Mhm.
But I knew he was conflicted. And when Dez left, the final piece of the puzzle was to bring in Wendy, because Wendy was always with us. So, I mean, she wasn't nothing new to us, and she was on the band. So And she would always pick the guitar up and she'd be strumming a little bit, and she could play. So her and Lisa had been playing since they were little kids. So when when Dez made up his mind, the vision was complete. And he put Wendy in the band. We were that band. We were that unit. And that's when we got our name, The Revolution. He finally completed what it was that he wanted. And he was a band member. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, he considered himself a band member. Even when you listen to old interviews where Prince is talking about the archives, he says the revolution has a lot of music in the archive. He doesn't say, I have a lot of music. He says the revolution. See, and a lot of people don't realize I never was hired by Prince. I was asked to join a band. Just like I was in a band Fantasy, I was asked to join his band. And so when I came in, I knew it was different right away. I mean, I had input. So by the end of the 1999 record, we were already working on the Purple Rain soundtrack. And man, he gave me so much freedom. So how he would approach songwriting had changed. You know, there's a few songs where he came like Darling Nikki. I mean, he had his idea, and he would come in all the music done, and he'd let us play it, and we'd be like, "Oh wow, that's wild, dude." But it was just amazing. I mean, he's on all the instruments, and he was just tearing it up. But you can tell the difference between a Darling Nikki and like a Computer Blue. See, you can hear the difference.
Yeah.
Darling Nikki, Prince. Computer Blue is the revolution. So what he started doing is he liked that. He used to call it the freight train, that freight train sound. Because when we were coming, it was like a locomotive. It's like, and we came through with this rumble of sound, this plethora of different um, uh, backgrounds and music, all clumped into one. And that became his style of writing for a long time. And that's what shot that record. I don't care what anybody says, Purple Rain became what it was, the soundtrack, because of that collaboration, because it was a powerful group of musicians. We may not have been the greatest musicians in the world, but we were the greatest chemistry. We were like the Beatles. You know, we had a chemistry with each other to this day. When we get together, it's powerful. We start jamming together. We all have such different backgrounds that it starts to create this force, and in a sense, chills up your spine. It's like, God dang, that was funky. We should be recording that.
Right.
You
Do you
know.
get to reunite very often?
Yeah. When we were on tour before the COVID hit, um, we would meet at people's homes and whatever, and we would jam together. Wendy and Lisa work out at Henson, so they had the big studio. We do some stuff there, and so we got a lot of opportunities to get together and just jam and have a good time. Sound checks, we do it just like Prince did, but we don't go into a lot of original. I think there's a lot of fear there. It's like, wait a minute, there's a lot of eyeballs, a lot of ears listening to us.
Right.
We got to be careful what we put out.
Yeah. Yeah. That
You
was I was wondering is exactly that, because
you
you start dabbling and you're like, "Oh, I don't know."
you guys cast a pretty big shadow.
Yeah.
Oh
A
yeah.
little bit.
When you were working on these records, you said 1999 and Purple Rain and Around the World in the Day. Like, he wrote so much music. When he died, everybody talked about, are we finally going to be able to hear what he's been keeping in the vaults for so long? Did he have a idea for the record? Were you guys all sitting there going, well, how can we mix these pieces together? Or was this something that was laid out long before? Or,
No,
you know
like
what I mean?
I'll give you an example. Like let's say America.
Hmm.
I remember when he was putting America together, and it was okay, but it didn't have that freight train. And we all systematically started adding what we are to that track. And I can't speak for the other members. I can speak for me. I know when I got that bass line, I was like, when I got the track and I got the idea from him, I heard it. I just heard it. I immediately felt where it needed to go. And that's what we all do. And then the end result was what you hear. We got that 22-minute version. That was probably one of 100 sound checks where we jammed that song. And then he would just go in the studio and he would like, hey, take the bass line off track or tape number 25 and take the keyboards over here. And so because it was all in sync. And so he would just use what sound the best and do whatever edits needed to be done. But so when people start talking about the archives, there is a lot of stuff there, a lot of stuff. But Prince, I'm gonna tell you right now, if he was alive, would have an absolute fit
Mhm.
to do what's being done right now. That stuff wasn't meant for people to hear. His archives are like his black book or his diary. And we don't have the right to go digging into that diary and revealing that side of him, because if he wanted it revealed, then he would have revealed it. And so I get kind of angry when I hear a lot of the stuff that comes out, like when 100 Miles an Hour is a song he wrote for my band Maserati. And when I hear his version being sold, I'm like, what do you got? What are you doing? He would wring your neck if he knew that you were
Yeah.
doing that. He doesn't want people to hear that.
Right.
He wrote it for somebody else. So why would you republish it? And just so stuff like that really angers me. But that's here nor there. It's the way it is.
Mhm.
Yeah. Things are in the vault for a reason, and to honor someone's legacy and memory, maybe they shouldn't be let out of that vault.
Absolutely. And if
Yeah.
it is, involve the people that were involved with it, because then we could
Right.
tell the story behind it. We
Right.
could, we could say, okay, Prince would be okay with this as long as we did it like this. But
Right.
to just go in there and know nothing about our history together and then start putting stuff out. I mean, I was just pulling my hair out. I was frustrated. Every time
Mhm.
something was released, I was just like, ah,
Yeah.
frustrating me.
I can only imagine. Oh.
Yeah.
During your time together, there are the stories in your book, and I will not ruin any of them, I promise, because they're so fabulous and they unfold in such a way that you have to experience it through the story and the way you tell it from living it. There were some things though that happened between you that some decisions that he made or promises that didn't come to fruition that were really hurtful, obviously, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
Yet your love is so strong throughout the entire story.
absolutely.
How? How does that love stay even in the depths of hurt?
He was my big brother. That was my big brother.
I
And
know.
you know, I have a little brother. I used to beat my little brother up all the time. I would beat my brother up when we were taking karate class. I felt sorry for him when he got home. He walked through that door and I was like, yeah. And he started crying. He's like, Mom, he won't leave me alone. He's beating on me. But it was just that's family. I call us the Brady Bunch. I mean, we had our fights. You know, especially me and Prince. I mean, I done tore up a few locker rooms on tour. I mean, me and him had, it was a roller coaster ride, and there was a lot of mental trauma I went through with certain things because I had to learn how to process it. But the bottom line is, it always came back to love. It's like that is my brother. This is a man that took me. He saw me at a young age, and he said, "He reminds me of me." And he took me in and he nurtured my career and he didn't have to do that. He could have just gave me a couple $100 a week and said, okay, you're a hired hand. And that's all you're going to do. You're going to do what I tell you to do, and you're not going to do anything else. But he wasn't like that. He brought me in and he nurtured me. He showed me how to be a rock star. I mean, I was walking around with earrings and hair out of this world. And I got a picture somebody sent me just the other day. I'm sitting on my Ferrari. I had a Ferrari back then. And I'm sitting on my Ferrari. And I got this black suit on with my legs crossed, my hair. I mean, I look like a woman. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, and, he taught me all that. I lived and breathed what I was until I decided I didn't want to be that anymore, Where with him, it wasn't a decision. It was who he was,
In the afterword, I think it is in the book, you say that Prince always was repeating the phrase, always blaze new trails.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that means to you?
He used to make me mad with that one. Because every single time, like I posted a video of me playing Let's Work on YouTube once. And I think in like 20 minutes, it got like 30,000 views. He got me with this. And so he has the cyber police shut me down. I was like, what the frick are you doing, man? I was like, how you shut me down? I was like, I've been playing that bass line with you for how many decades and then, how many years, and you're going to shut me down? He said, you got to learn to blaze new trails. And I said, blaze new trails. I said, well, then you need to blaze new trails because the whole Purple Rain album is all of us. So if you want to tell me to blaze new trails, then you need to blaze new trails. You can't just pick and choose what we can do. I don't work for you anymore. And so I was like, I helped you write something. That means I'm a part of it. I can play it anytime I want. And his attitude was like, but it's mine. And I was like, no, it's ours, and, we'd have that. Like I said, we're brothers. We would fight back and forth. I was never afraid to talk to Prince any way that I wanted to. And it's obvious he wasn't afraid to talk to me any way he wanted to.
Right.
And so, but I never feared him or looked at him like a god or this superstar. I mean, he was Prince to me. And, if we got in a fight, he had to have bodyguards to protect him because I would have just stomped him. he would put some cheap shots in at me, all the time. It's in the book. I tell some of the stories where with me it was the opposite. He always had protection. He had somebody grabbing me by the shoulder to pull me back. But it was a love-hate love affair, but it was cool. So people that want to make controversy about my relationship with Prince, I tell them all to go jump a lake. Because the bottom line is you weren't there. You didn't live with him like I did. I was there with him day in, day out, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, him calling me up, having me come to the studio just to sit around. I mean, you guys weren't there. You shut up. Don't tell me how about my stories with Prince, because they're my stories. And they meant a lot to me. And for me to reveal them and tell people about them is cathartic for me. See, I've been through a lot. And so this is my way to express how I'm feeling and what I went through. This is a way for me to release years of pressure that was building up, And Prince, he knew that I wrote a book. He knew I was putting this book out. And so I love it. I love it. People that don't like it, like I say, don't read it.
Right. That's easy. Easy solution.
Don't buy it. You don't want to hear my story, then just don't buy it. Nobody told you had to buy it.
Well, and I think that everything you just said really does resonate through the book. I think right out of the gate, you come out basically with this is our story. This is what we went through. And then even, where your career took off after your time with Prince is unreal as well.
Yeah. That's my next book, After the Rain.
That's perfect. We will reconvene.
Yeah.
I do have to say, there's a lot of love for Detroit in your book. And I was
Here
very
we
happy
go.
that Luke gets so mad at me because I'm a Detroit girl. So
Oh man, Detroit.
yes,
Let me tell you something. I
very
love Detroit. We
thank
love Detroit. We always will.
well, gosh, we love you too. I mean, obviously, losing my mind, but it was great throughout the whole book. I'm like, yes, we did it right. Yes, our crowd was the best. Yes,
Yeah,
Motown.
man.
Yes.
Detroit was no joke.
Last question I have. Why are you guys not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet?
I mean, I have my opinions. I have my opinion, and you know, I didn't touch on it in the book because, again, it is my opinion, and I don't want to. I tell my truth, but when it comes to my opinions, um, you know, I keep them to myself. But um, I think that when the revolution was no more, we were at the pinnacle. You can't get higher than where we were. And I think that he still had a career after the revolution. He had to redefine who he was now. He didn't have the revolution anymore. He formed the MPG, which was going to be this newer, funkier version of it. I mean, I was asked to be an MPG before they even formed. And when I had quit the revolution, I left the revolution in '85, but I stayed with him until late '86. A lot of people don't know that. So when he formed MPG, he asked me to come back and be bass player. And Levi was going to be on guitar with Miko Weaver, and then we had Sheely on drums. At that point, I was like, I said, Prince, this is my time to go. I said, I've given you the best of my young days. You know, now I gotta find out who I am. And so I kind of, I kind of departed, and I felt good about the departure. But um, when it comes to the revolution, we were at the pinnacle, and I think that he was trying to do better than that. He was trying to reach to a level higher than what we had already reached. You know, here comes Graffiti Bridge. I was like, man, but I think that's what he was trying to do. He tried to do that with Under the Cherry Moon. You know, he wanted to take. He wanted to explore these new avenues. He never could reach a pinnacle higher than Purple Rain. It was just what it was. And so I think that what he started to do was erase our memory. I really do feel that, and it's my opinion. But when you talk to a lot of the newer generation of Prince fans, they don't really know us. You know, they don't. Especially me. Nobody know who I am. I mean, I've had to brand myself by myself. I didn't have Prince to push my brand like he did Wendy and Lisa. I mean, I was
yeah.
on my own, and so I had to rebuild. I had to build my own brand, my own name, and so I think that he spent a lot of his career trying to erase all that helped him reach that pinnacle, because he went back to being, I am Prince. See, not Prince and the Revolution anymore. I am Prince. Prince and the MPG. It wasn't like Prince and the Revolution. Prince and the MPG, he got a bunch of hired hands. They got paychecks, and they came in and they basically, like Sign of the Times. I mean, a lot of that stuff with Revolution had worked on way before that album came out. And so, I think that that's where MPG was kind of born. It became his band. It was a revolving door. There were many different facets of MPG. There was only one Revolution. So I think there's the difference. And a lot of the newer fans don't understand that. They don't realize Prince was in a band. The Revolution was a band that he was the lead singer of. That of course, he put it together. I mean, he was the band leader, but it was a band that he was in. And because of that, all that music was a collaboration of many different styles. that we all brought to the table. When we were no longer there, he could never reproduce that. He tried. I mean, there's several times where he had flown me out to Minneapolis to play on tracks to try to rebirth that sound. He would have me and Matt Fink. See, so he was trying to rebirth that sound, but we are a unit of 5, you know, Bobby, Matt, Lisa, Wendy, and Mark. And when we're together, it's some kind of magic that happens. I don't know what it is, but it's incredible. I can say that because I lived it, and he missed that. And before he passed, I talked to him several times about, why are you trying to recreate a sound that's like that? Why don't you just put us all back together? I said, man, can you imagine? I said, do it for the fans, Prince. I said, let's do a world tour. I said, it would blow people away. And then he goes, why would I do that? I was like, what do you mean?
Of course.
I said, you would do it for the fans. And then he goes, well, we'd have to give all the money to charity. And I was like, give all the money to charity. I said, this isn't about money, Prince. This is about giving back to fans something they've been craving for decades. To see a reunion of the Revolution, the movie band, would be phenomenal for your career. Phenomenal. And then he goes, well, you know, like I said, we'd have to find a charity and give all the money. I said, look, Prince, charity begins at home, bro.
Yes, it does.
I said, you're rich. We ain't.
Right.
Okay? You made all the money. We didn't.
Right.
And I said, so charity begins at home. I said, but it's not even about the money. It's just about us all coming together again and doing it, man, because it's so powerful. And so he said, well, I'll think about it, you know. And next thing you know, he's got Third Eye Girl out there, you know. But I think he was really contemplating it. I really believe that after the Third Eye Girl adventure, he was going to reunite the Revolution and do a world tour.
BrownMark's book, My Life in the Purple Kingdom, is published by the University of Minnesota Press and is available wherever you can buy or order books. And finally, he has new music out from BrownMark and the Bad Boys of Paisley. The single is called Empty Handed, and you can find it wherever you download or stream music.
You can follow us on all the various socials. You can check out our website at rockandrollgradschool.com for more grad school content. And please leave us a review on iTunes. We're tired of asking our family members to do so.
Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sove and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mastonen. This one's for Philippe. Thank you, good night, and may all your favorite bands stay together.